Hey everyone, it's Natalie. So today's video is going to be on how the narcissist takes advantage of your weakness. So I think it's normal in your life to have, things happen where the narcissist will look at you like you're in a vulnerable situation, you're in a vulnerable moment, or they see something like a mistake that you did as a weakness or a trauma that happened to you as a weakness. And so I'll lead off with this example. And I've told this story before in the past, and this is just like the most horrible story where she took advantage of my weakness to further her agenda, because that's what they do, is they find your weaknesses, even though a normal person would have sympathy, empathy, and remorse or guilt for you, or they would, want to hug you, be there for you. The narcissist sees your mistakes or traumas as a way to further their agenda. And when you're dealing with a in-law, they see it as a opportunity to use that as an excuse of why their child should separate from you or divorce you or break up, whatever it is. So this is just one of many stories where my in-law took a vulnerable situation I was in, a trauma situation I was in, and used it against me. So when my son was about 1.5 years old, we decided, because my in-laws wanted to make it work with us, to move from Ohio down to Texas, about 20 minutes from where they lived. And I thought this was a good opportunity to start a new relationship, fresh plate, clean slate, and that I would be appreciative of having my son's grandparents so close to help me with him, because my husband wasn't technically living with us. He was coming home every 2 weeks from work. So about, I don't know, when was it? About half a year into the lease, the toilets, the faucet, and the dishwasher needed a look at from the maintenance man. So maintenance man came. He could barely really speak any English, so it was really hard to understand him. But, I'm hospitable. I'm a kind soul. I try to work with him, explaining different things that were wrong. And at first, he seemed really kind. So I was like, this is going on with the toilet. This is going on with the sink. This is going on with the dishwasher. Well, I guess he thought that it was a good idea to sexually assault me in each of those places that I showed him the problem. The first time, I thought it was an accident. He had rubbed his crotch against my buttocks when I was bent down showing him the problem with the toilet. But because I don't think badly of people, I thought, well, this is a small bathroom. Accidents happen. It was an accident. So I take him upstairs and I show him the sink. And as I was showing him the sink, he took his hand and brushed me on the breast. And this, I knew, was not an accident. So my heart was pounding, and I was like, I just got to get this creeper out. So I take him downstairs to the dishwasher, just kind of playing along, because I had a 1-year-old child in the house. I didn't want to upset him. I knew what he was doing. It wasn't the first time a guy had done this. So I take him downstairs, show him the dishwasher, and he took his hand and rubbed it on my crotch and started doing weird stuff to my ear and neck. And I froze. And I don't know if you've ever been in this situation like this, but you're terrified. You're so terrified, you don't know what to do. And the only thought that came to me was not to fight with him, hit him or anything, because I had to protect my child. So I finally get him out of the house. I am totally freaked out, because I know I kind of explain it like it was just like a simple sexual assault, but it was aggressive, okay? The first time wasn't, but the last two was. So I'm freaked out. And who do I call? I call the narcissist because she was the closest to me, and she was really trying to be in my life. And so I thought, I need help immediately. So I call her, tell her what was happening. Of course, everyone wants to call the police and everything. So then eventually, about like a day or two later, she recommends that I go see a therapist to work out what had happened. So I thought that was the nicest thing anyone had ever wanted to help me with, to watch my child while I went to therapy. And I thought our relationship was growing. But you know what? All of that was to further her agenda. Because guess what? My husband got called to his parents' house to eat dinner, and I didn't want to go. Actually, I wasn't even invited. He comes home and opens the door, and he has tears in his eyes. And I was like, what? Like, I thought someone had died in the family or something. That's why his parents wanted to talk to him. Which also brings me back to every time his parents separate us, they are whispering something in his ear. But that's another video. He comes home and he's like, Natalie, sit down. I need to tell you something. And I'm like, okay, what? What's going on? Are you okay? My mom told me this. She said that I shouldn't feel obligated to stay in this relationship just because you were sexually assaulted. And that she told him that he shouldn't feel bad if he wanted a divorce. And it shocked me. Because I thought, here we are. I'm dropping my kid off to her twice a week to go to therapy. She's the one that told me to go to therapy. She's smiling in my face, trying to make sure I'm better, like trying to protect me and love me. I was vulnerable. And I thought, finally, I got the mother-in-law I always wanted because of the things she was doing. But that's the thing. The narcissist will do things that are nice to you, but in the background are malicious. And I said, well, what did you tell her? And he said, he told his mom, I can't leave my wife because she got sexually assaulted and is going through this. Like, I have to stand by my wife and help her get through this. Like, because at the time, since my husband was gone for 2 weeks at a time, I was there alone. So after the sexual assault, I was extremely, extremely paranoid. So I was constantly looking out the windows, constantly checking the doors are locked, things like that. So, I mean, it was a big deal. I had to get the manager involved, all these people involved, right? It was a huge deal. But for his mom to see that weakness in my vulnerability, for his mom to see that I was suffering, for his mom to see that it caused depression and anxiety and paranoia in me, and to run with it as an excuse to tell my partner to break up with me is bullshit. How can I ever forgive another woman, mind you, another woman who knew only years prior of another event that happened? Because when I told her about this sexual assault, she wanted to involve the cops. I said, I really don't want to involve the cops because my mom's neighbor drugged and raped me, and really nothing came of that case. And I don't feel like dragging myself through this for the next 2 years, like the first case, and going and testifying, doing all this, because really, honestly, I don't, I just want to get over it. I don't give a damn. Even though she knew that I was already dealing with a past sexual trauma. Even though she knew that this is the second sexual trauma I've had in a few years. I really needed support, that I really needed someone to be there. She took that as a sign of weakness in me to destroy my relationship. How could anyone ever forgive that? A woman. This wasn't a man who couldn't understand. This is a narcissistic woman who has no empathy or sympathy for anything that you go through in life, any traumas. And they take that trauma that you just went through and further their agenda, use it as an excuse of why their child shouldn't be with you. This is my husband. At the time, we had been together for, about 16 years together. And we've been through a lot of stuff. I mean, we've been together since we were teenagers. So, could you imagine all the things we've been through? So this, my husband would never leave me in a situation like this. She used it as an excuse to get him out of the marriage. Like, oh, guess what, Jared? We finally have an excuse for you to get out of the marriage. Natalie was sexually assaulted, and I believe she's erratic and crazy now. So, the messed up thing about this is, and this is how indoctrinated and just, I don't know why I went along with this, but what happened was, my husband told me not to tell his parents that he told me this. But she had told me things in the past and said the same thing. He's like, I'm just trying to tell you to protect you, that you just, keep your distance from my mom. She's after you again or whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, this lady hadn't even been back in my life a year. A year. And she is already putting the D word, the divorce word, into my marriage where it had never been there before. Just like before I was married, she would tell my husband to break up with me or lose them. Break up with me or don't get a college education. Break up with me or be homeless. Break up with me or suffer the consequences of this and that and that. Now, with the child, he had just stopped breastfeeding. This is a small baby. I was already delusional from no sleep from the child waking up every few hours during the night, yet alone having paranoia, anxiety, and depression from the sexual assault. I was living in misery. I was living in hell. I had to look over my back and make sure people weren't following me. I was so scared that this guy was going to come back after me because I had reported him. Even knowing the misery I was living in, I still had to play along. I had to play along to keep my husband happy. I had to play along to keep the peace in the family. Because like I said, it had only been a year of them accepting me in the family because I had their grandson. Accepting me in their family. So I had to play along to not make a fuss about this. As angry as I was, I didn't say anything. I went along with it. And I would visit her and she would call me and come to my house unannounced. And smile in my face. Invite me to go eat. Invite me and my child to go places with her. When I knew what she had said to my husband. And I couldn't bring it up. And I think a lot of women get trapped in this vicious cycle that I was trapped in. Where your in-laws said something, but you're not able to speak up to protect your husband, to protect their family. But guess what? You're not protecting yourself. You're allowing these people to abuse you further than what you really, no one deserves this. Like, you're allowing this person to abuse you to the point of not even knowing what reality you live in anymore. Because let me tell you, if my mom had said that, like I told my husband, what if someone has sexually assaulted you, Jared, and my mom came to me and said, Natalie, because Jared was sexually assaulted, he's probably mentally unstable. And even if he was, he had the right? Even if he was, I think, this is a good opportunity to go ahead and divorce Natalie. Don't feel bad. She doesn't need you. You shouldn't feel obligated to stay in this marriage. No, Natalie, he was sexually assaulted. That's all on him. Who cares about your marriage? Who cares what Jared feels? Who cares what Jared's going through? I told Jared, if my mom had ever said that to me, I would have never spoke to her again. Because how dare her take a trauma like that happened and use it to further her agenda against you. I told my husband this. I was angry. And he agreed. But then at the same time, he wanted to continue the relationship with his parents. And I went along with it. The things that I put up with, I just they were so blatantly dishonest, so blatantly horrendous towards me, just malicious. And I wasn't able to say anything. And over the years, I figured out why my husband always told me, I'm going to tell you this, but don't say anything. And it's because that's how he was treated. He wasn't allowed to say anything that his parents said or did, even though they were in the wrong. He wasn't allowed to say anything to him. So he was training me. He was grooming me to be submissive like him. And I'm a Taurus, honey. I'm a bull. And I don't play along with that crap. There's only so much that I could tolerate. And I think the only reason why I even went along with it for the time I did was because that acceptance that I had been looking for so long finally came, I thought. And I moved from Ohio to Texas, 20 minutes away from her. That's how bad I wanted that acceptance. That I spent everything in my savings account to move down the road from her, just to build this relationship that I've always wanted, all while she didn't have any of those intentions. None. Those intentions were never there. Her intentions was to continue on the path that she was on, regardless of what she told my husband, saying, well, if we come back into your life, y'all are going to have to start respecting Natalie, treating Natalie fine, loving and welcoming. And they were like, yeah, of course. Y'all are married now. You have children now. Of course we'll. But that was never her intentions. That was never her intentions. Her intentions was to get her son out of the relationship with me, regardless if we had a child and we were married. It was a trick. And this is what I'm trying to convey is, these people take your vulnerabilities, your weaknesses, as an opportunity to further their agenda into the direction of destruction of your life. So right now, one of my friends, he is sick with COVID. Okay? He is feeling vulnerable. He's been no contact for a year, and he's really needing his mom and dad because he's so sick. And I also think that the media has corrupted our minds into thinking that if you get COVID, you're going to die. It's an automatic death sentence. It's not. I had COVID, my son had COVID, my brother had COVID, my mom had COVID, my husband had COVID. It's just like the flu. We got over it now. I'm not dogging on anyone. There are people that have underlying health issues who got COVID and died, or they just didn't have the strength and died of COVID. I'm not knocking those people. I'm just telling you that the media does get in your brain thinking, well, you better watch out. If you got COVID, you die. So consciously and subconsciously, you think about that, especially when you get COVID. And so you're thinking, well, this might be, I'm sick with COVID. This really might be my last chance to say bye to my parents or whatever. Or you think back to the times that you were sick as a child and how your mother and father comfort you. That you use them as kind of a comfort blanket to feel better, to be healing in that sickness. Well, right now, he's wanting to reach out because the sickness is making him vulnerable. But if he gets back into contact with his parents because he has COVID, they are going to take advantage of him while he's sick. So they're going to come in loving and caring and kind, but in the background, they are going to be doing some conniving, dirty tricks that you can't see right now, but later on will be shown. So when you're in this vulnerability, like I was being sexually assaulted and staying quiet, or being sick and wanting your parents, what you can do is kind of sit with your thoughts. Sit with your thoughts and do what you think is right, not what the narcissist wants you to do. It doesn't matter what their agenda is. You allow that agenda to be furthered in your life because you have contact with them, because you're allowing these people to further their agenda. And narcissists will never stop, no matter how much they say they're going to change. They will never stop trying to get their agenda met. They will take, all of your vulnerabilities, all of your traumas, everything that has happened to you as a way to manipulate the situation into getting something that they want. If that's supply, if that's their grandchild, if that's their children, your husband, your wife, whatever it is, their agenda never dies. It never dies. So no matter if you went no contact and now you're going back into contact or whatever it is, if you go back into contact with this narcissist, that agenda will be picked right back up. Because in the background, what you don't know is they're still trying to further that agenda even though you're not present in their life. They're trying to do every conniving, dirty trick in the book to get you away from their child, from your child, from whoever, whatever. And so when you're in this spot where, you're looking for acceptance and love and kindness, when you're vulnerable, thinking that the narcissist is going to give it to you, they might give it to you at first to trick you into submitting. They want that submission again. They want you to submit to them. And they use these tactics into tricking you back into submission. And I think that's why in my case, maybe, I don't know. I don't know why I didn't say anything, but I ended up saying something about a year later. And she told me the reason why she told her child this was because she was scared for his safety. Some made up bullshit. Because I was mentally unstable. Because I got sexually assaulted. I think anyone who went through a rape and then a sexual assault within years of each other is going to be emotionally affected somehow, especially if they were recovering from a rape and then boom, got sexually assaulted. So for someone to tell me that I wasn't acting normal, like my normal self, duh. Why should I be acting like my normal self? But it wasn't like, she made it seem like I was acting so bizarre or something. That wasn't it. I was just sad. I had depression. I wasn't doing anything like risky or acting any certain way. I mean, she hardly even saw me. When she did see me, it was to drop my son off and pick him up, but that was it. It wasn't, she made it seem like I was like off the rocker or something. But that's what they do, is they twist and manipulate your vulnerabilities, the situation you're in, your traumas, into making other people believe the things that they want them to believe, even when it's not true. So if you find yourself in this situation, stick up for yourself and don't fall prey to them. My friend, I know you're sick. I know that you're reverting back to childhood memories of when your parents made you feel good when you were sick. But they hadn't changed. They'll never change. And I use my sexual assault as an example of what they might look like at first, a sympathetic, empathetic parent, to straight bulldoze mode. That's what I always say, that they bulldoze through your life, not giving a damn what they left in the wake. So you sit with your feelings, you feel your feelings, you cry if you need to. But don't ever, ever get in contact with your narcissist when you're in this state. Never. Because you're already going through something, regardless if it's a sickness or a sexual assault. Don't bring these people to come bulldoze your life even further, because that's what's going to happen. While one hand's doing this, the other hand's doing that. Because they never ever match up. They're being nice to you, to your face, and behind your back, they're doing some crummy crap. I hope this reached my friend. He knows who he is. Call me. We'll do some coaching. All right. Peace, love, harmony. Bye, guys.